Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video, we are looking at IonQ. It is time for another update. And in the case of this chart, it seems our expectations for a wave 2 correction haven't been met. We haven't reached the levels of support that would have allowed us to get the second degree confirmation that we have had the wave 1 complete, we have had the wave 2 correction complete, and we are looking for the wave 3 to take place. At this point, I do not find it likely by any means that we would still revisit those levels, that this interpretation would still give us the same opportunity with the same or a different area of support within a larger 1-2 setup. Might still provide something like that, but I do not find it likely at this point. And while this doesn't mean that this interpretation cannot still follow through, yeah, it still can. It does make the chart significantly more complex. And even with all that in mind, I actually see opportunity here still. Within the smaller time frame perspective, I see two paths that both could lead to an opportunity. Now, from this larger time frame perspective, I will not be sharing all of the possible different counts because there's actually so many different structures that could take place within this movement to the upside. We will continue to consider this idea of an impulse. We will be tracking this in blue because it is part of the wave C in white. But it doesn't need to be unfolding exactly in this manner. We could be looking even at an ending diagonal within the white wave C, where we could actually still reach the 78.6% extension of the previous wave A top that sits at $200. It is enough for this pattern. And for example, yeah, I will just show you one or two ideas within this alternative count because, again, there are so many other possibilities. I could be looking at an ending diagonal within the wave C. I could track something like a 1, 2, a wave 3, a wave 4, and a wave 5 to complete this pattern. This could actually be enough because I would have this as a wave A up, a wave B down, and within the wave C, I expect a 5-wave pattern, right? This wave 3 itself would probably take us close enough to $200 that it would allow a wave 4 correction and a wave 5 within the wave C to actually take us there. But the large time frame perspective, the large time frame count is not actually that relevant because we can identify opportunities within the smaller time frame. So I will show this possible structure to be a possibility. It could be that wave 1 had topped here, that this would have been the wave 2 bottom, but again, this is not too important at this time, as I am more focused on what has happened internally within this structure, where again, I have a couple of options, and without this push on Friday, I would have actually had a more simple time looking for the more likely path here, because I could have identified a leading diagonal in this structure that would have allowed me to look for another 1-2 setup, that would have allowed me to identify a more clearly defined area of support to follow through within this blue idea of an impulse. We can still track this idea, which is why I am adding it in, but it would have to account for this move up to have been part of the wave 2 correction. So the levels of support I would be tracking for such a scenario would be between $60 and $50, right? From these levels of support, we can expect a reversal in a wave 3 that could take off quite aggressively. We would even have structural support here at the 38.2% retracement, and this would be actually even expected to not be a deep retracement within a wave 2 because it could imply at least a double 1-2 setup, right? A double 1-2, 1-2. Or even a series of 1-2 setups within a more complex structure. But then I go in a smaller time frame, where in the path that this move up that has occurred on Friday actually sticks, we can expect an extremely aggressive takeoff. And this might be completely invalidated by the opening price on Monday. Perfectly acceptable outcome. Because for this structure, I need to be holding internal levels of support for this movement to the upside, yeah? This last trading hour on Friday is critical for this scenario to be acceptable because in this interpretation, I am tracking an extreme amount of 1-2 setups. And typically, I wouldn't find this too attractive, but I do see the momentum increase. I do see such a possibility. And I would be looking here at a series of 1-2 setups in something like this, where the amount is actually even pointless. It's way too many to actually even care how many 1-2 setups we would have here. But I go even in the smaller time frame, and I would have to account for another double 1-2 setup, where the momentum we see is actually still increasing. This could be our wave 3 to the upside. But I come back and remind you that for this interpretation, this move needs to be holding. We cannot have this form a lower low, because otherwise the structure would already only have 3 waves to the upside, and we cannot expect a wave 3 to be taking off. Sure, it might push higher still, but it's not going to be within a reliable pattern. I could be looking, in the worst case scenario, at a potential 1-2 setup here, where this would allow a wave 3 to be forming afterwards. I will allow the entire wave 2 area of support, because we would be looking possibly at a pre-market heavy effect on how this actually opens. So we don't want to actually get out too early. We might actually even want to allow a retracement as deep as the beginning of this movement to the upside. We might want to allow the entire invalidation. But I do know that if we actually see an invalidation of this pattern, which means breaking below $68.5, we would already have too large of a correction for this to still work out as a 1-2 setup, right? That is why, even if we open at maybe higher prices, because this wave 1 doesn't look particularly complete, but even if we open at higher prices, an opportunity might still be had here within the smaller time frame, because we are actually at decently close levels, even from, let's say, $73 to invalidation. We are looking at 6%, where the potential upside, if this is to actually work out, would be significantly larger, right? We could be looking at $350 for a general target for this to actually be a wave 3. So it is actually a very compelling risk-reward profile, but it is going to be a high-risk trade. So I want it to be extremely clear as I end this video that this is going to be a high-risk setup, this orange interpretation specifically. If you manage to build that into your risk profile, it might make sense, but there is an extremely good chance that this structure would be invalidated even before the market opens. So let's do a small recap. I am looking at this overall structure to actually potentially build directly a wave 3 to the upside, right? If this is to be a wave 3, it is entirely possible, not uncommon at all, to see little to no retracements at all. We have seen pretty healthy momentum up until this high, but then we have seen a larger correction. But then the momentum is actually increasing within these follow-up structures, which allows me to consider such a possibility. It is a pattern that we can identify if we do backtesting, if we go in the past and look for such structures. It does happen that these just take off. We do not need to assume a lot of risk, because we do know that if we break here, the 78.6% retracement maybe we want to allow, as I said, the full invalidation. We can rather likely either expect the wave 2 correction to go towards the first level of support at $60, which is a significant drop, or build a less reliable pattern in continuation to higher prices, which honestly, I do not really think I would want to be a part of. So for now, we will stop here. I believe it is clear that the blue area of support is the more reliable one, and the orange scenario is a more high-risk play. But these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and if you enjoyed the content and want to support it directly, check out the channel membership, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.